And very good evening, one and all. Thanks for joining us here inside the ring. And I see one of our most dedicated fans of the show, Charles, is first here, joining us from Cincinnati, Ohio. Hello again. Charles, thanks for being here. Dan is here from Kissimmee, Florida. I'm noticing the show has the dedicated fan base, and I appreciate that. We have our regulars. Like, we can just get together and have our own little meeting, and that would be the show. It's good, good stuff. If you're your first time here, you're joining us again, please do say hello in the chat. You can type whether you're listening on Facebook or YouTube. Pop comments in the chat. I get them here on the big screen, and we can bring them into the show. So if you have questions, comments, I'm happy to hear them as we go throughout the show. Mr. President Ken is here joining us from Atlanta. Look forward to being in Atlanta next year for the IBM convention. Joe is here from Australia, so whether you're summer, winter, wherever you are, you've braved the weather to be here. T-Rav, that's a cool name. T-Rav Nero is here. Randy, hey Randy, nice to see you. Randy's an old friend of mine from Alberta, Canada, where I am kind of from, where I grew up in magic. So I used to love hanging out with Randy. He's a big fan of books, and I know he probably has a full bookcase full of Linking Ring magazines and different magazines. So Randy, tonight I'm going to show you a couple things that are worth digging out, some issues of Linking Ring, because that is what we do here. We dig into the pages. There's the old saying, if you want to hide something, publish it in a magazine. And this show, the mission here is to break that down and dig into the archives. We go all the way back to 1923 when the Linking Ring was first getting started. And, I do my best to find things that are interesting, curiosities, interesting tricks and magic, and the magicians of the Linking Ring magazine. And tonight, I'm very fortunate we have two magicians of the Linking Ring pages that are going to be joining us here on the show. We have lots more people coming in from Ohio. Paynesville, Ohio. Peter. Hey, Peter is the first time tuning in from South Carolina. I appreciate you being here, Peter. Greg in Lockport, Illinois. Ken says, "Where can I get a fine shirt like your?" I'll sell it to you in Atlanta. How about that? I'll autograph it, because this has been worn in almost every episode. So this is like the official Inside the Ring shirt now. Joseph was able to make it. He's normally here at work, but he's on a 3-week lockdown. I'm sorry to hear that, Joseph, but I'm happy to be here and bring some magic into your apartment or house, wherever you are currently. So thanks for tuning in. So let's get started. And this past year, Joseph is mentioning, it's been full of challenges. And one of the biggest challenges has been in the entertainment industry and adapting to this new world that we never saw coming. And magicians had to adapt so fast because just the bottom dropped out of the industry. And immediately there was people scrambling, how do we bring magic online and into virtual performances? And one of the very first public resources that I saw was actually in the pages of the Linking Ring, and it goes back a full year now. It was July 2020. There was an article published, 5 tips for virtual magic. And this was the pioneering days of virtual magic. We were only in it for a few months at that point. And just got announced this past month that article was actually one of the winners of the Award of Excellence for the Linking Ring magazine, which highlights a few of the finest content contributed in the past year. And I'm pleased to introduce the author of that article is here with us. We're going to get an update, see what's happened in her life in the past year. Please welcome Katrina Kroetch. Thank you, Katrina, for joining us. And where are you in the world right now?
I am in Washington, D.C. Well, technically Virginia, 10 minutes from Washington, D.C.
Aha. And I asked that because you are currently on the road, almost literally on the road, touring around in is it an ambulance?
Yeah, I call it the Alaka's ambulance, and I renovated it to live in. I put a sink in it and a bed, and yeah. Well, right now I'm not in the ambulance. I'm in a friend's house.
It's a
Um,
very spacious ambulance.
I have many plants and posters. Though. This is the house.
Wonderful. Well, I really appreciate you joining us here, and congratulations on the award and the article. And what I really was curious to dig into, because I know this has been such a fast changing year of adapting to situations. So I'm curious how those 5 tips from a year ago might be different, or what's the same, or what have you learned kind of in addition to those?
Yeah. Well, so I think the 5 tips were. I think it was like know your platform.
Yeah, I got them written down. The first one was know your platform, and you were talking about the technical challenges of these different softwares.
Yeah. At this point, I kind of just like tell people that Zoom is best.
You mean like tell the people hosting events,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like,
Yeah,
when you first do a client phone call, I don't know about you, but I always like to get as much information. Plus, people like to be listened to, right? So if you're like, tell me more about your event. Oh, it's Jimmy's birthday or whatever. Tell me more about that. And they talk and they're like, we wanted to do it on this or that. Depending on what they say, I'll be like, oh, wow, Zoom is a really good choice. They say like Google Meet. I'm like, you know what? Google Meet's great. Zoom is such a better choice. And here's the reasons why. And you can have side by side view. There's no weird cutting away, which I think makes the magician look guilty. Like I could be sneaking
yeah,
an elephant when you cut away, to someone else, Like anyway, I try to like act like the expert, just freely sharing information, but also like sneakily like trying to point them to Zoom.
hmm I've heard, yeah, stories from different virtual magicians about using getting into Google Meets for the first time or Microsoft Teams, and just everything just blows up
Or
on.
Cisco WebEx. I can do them, but I'm like for the best experience, I like
Yeah,
recommend to clients. So I think like a year ago, I was more like, I'll do all the things. Please give me money. I don't want to be homeless. Right? COVID. And then now I'm more at the point where I'm like, oh, that's a good choice, but like maybe do this thing because I've been doing this for a few months and that's a
yeah.
better experience for your people. But I mean, I'll still do it on anything. I think you should still research your platform, but I just kind of try to push people to Zoom.
Yeah, and you're right. They come to you as the expert, so I think that's definitely a fair thing to
Mhm.
do. All right. So tip number 2: lighting is everything. Is
I,
it still everything?
I mean, there's other things. That's a fun title, right?
Yeah.
A lot. It's a lot, right? I feel like all of the if you were to like summarize my entire article down to like one point, it would be just make choices, right? Make choices about everything, and just each one is a different thing to make a choice about. But like lighting and what tricks to choose, and how to frame yourself and choose what's behind you and all that. It's just kind of like make choices
hmm
about everything, and I would still say that nowadays too. Just all the art you create, make choices.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen a few virtual shows. I wouldn't say I've seen a lot. I've seen a few, and some people approach it like they set up like their television studio, and it's this amazing broadcast production quality thing. And other people approach it as it's more of a casual, like, hey, you're joining me in my home. And it's not that one or the other is better. I think it's just different choices, as you said, and different kind of feels to it. Personally, for you, are you more the like high tech gadget, or are you more the keep it simple approach?
I think I'm in the middle. I'm not. I use a Logitech that I got at the beginning for like $100. Right now, you're on my iPad. But as when I wrote that article, I wasn't doing OBS. But I did the Magic Castle virtual show, and there was this one program that I needed to, this one trick that I just needed to learn OBS for to do this one 3-minute trick.
Uh-huh.
So I bought a whole new computer with a fancier graphics card, and I learned OBS just for this one trick. And so now I would say I'm more like, I'm a huge fan of OBS, and if this was that, you'd see like a cute little cursive thing that would say
Yeah. Just to catch people up, OBS is called Open Broadcast System, I think, and it's basically a way for you to be in control of your video. And magicians have adapted to be a one-person broadcast suite. They can push a button and their things change and logos come in and whatever. Some people use it just for looks. Some people use it for devious reasons.
There's so many cool things. I have a lot of friends that will have pre-recorded tricks, and they'll have like a cutaway to a different, camera or something. But then they just put on this video of them doing cups and balls, and it just, or something visual where you're like, I want to do this really complicated manipulation routine, but I can't do it right like 1 out of 5.
Do it once.
So why not record it, and then you can just go like pet your cat while it's playing. Like, I love virtual. It's still one of my favorite things. Mainly because in a lot of ways I think I'm lazy, and it's great if you're lazy. So you can do that. You can just go pet your cat while you have like a video of you doing this complicated manip routine that you spent 3 days recording, and then you just got the best recording. And anyway, so yeah, I'm a big fan of OBS. So in some ways, my tech has stayed the same, and in some ways it's gotten more complex. But I'm still a fan of like, just keeping it simple, especially because I travel, and I do have a couple virtual shows. Coming up this month, actually, pardon me, I'm drinking Thai tea. I actually have one in Atlanta with Joe Turner. His show, Atlanta Magic, I should know what it's called. But it's at the Red Light Cafe. I don't know, you don't know it, probably as well. But anyway.
I can't think of that. I know Joe, but I can't think of the name of the show, yeah.
Because I've been posting about it all week. And then right after that, I have a virtual show, and I'm actually doing it in the ambulance. But I actually have like a backdrop that I can slide down, so it doesn't like look like I'm in a car.
Yeah, and this is kind of the next step that you're taking now, which is having a complete studio that, I don't know, you can pack it into a briefcase, I assume. Like it's.
Yeah, well, I have a backdrop, but if I'm doing it in the ambulance, I just have it just rolls down like a projector screen behind me, and I can just like park next to anything with like internet and use the internet or put an Ethernet cable in. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. But yeah, my virtual show fits in a messenger bag, and the tech is also pretty small. I do have like a special, as I said, fancy laptop just for the show with a nice graphics card, and so but it could easily fit in a carry-on easily.
Yeah.
And actually, since then, I did a Penguin lecture on virtual shows, specifically more like virtual family shows, which I think are less of a thing now. I think there's virtual corporate's going to stay around for a long time, but I don't know if like kids shows will.
Yeah, I could see that. The conferences, I think, are definitely going to stay. Been doing a number of conferences, and it's such a cost saver for them to get people from all around the world in one place. Costs thousands upon thousands of dollars before you even get there.
Yeah, and like just like weekly team meetings and stuff like that. I've done, or holiday parties or whatever. But so when I did my Penguin lecture, I flew to Ohio with all of my stuff in a carry-on. So it definitely travels.
Yeah, and I think as it opens up, as you said, virtual is not going away. There's always going to be that opportunity. So while people are out performing on the road, they can get back to their hotel and do a second gig, and if they have that little portable setup. So.
Yeah, actually, I filmed Masters of Illusion this year, and I was able to do a virtual show in my dressing room, and that was really cool. I was probably one of the only magicians who was like, I have to do a show while I'm doing a show. It was like show 7.
Yeah, sure. You just play one of those pre-recorded videos, pop out on stage, do your act, come back.
Well, I don't have any pre-recorded videos.
Yeah.
I mostly do things that are very like volunteer heavy and less like manipy, manipulation-y.
Hey, that brings me to tip number 4, which was visual versus interactive magic. And I think your point was that some people were feeling like you can't interact in virtual because the audience is cut off.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing to do is to do interaction. Like I've done so much mentalism for children in the last
I was just going to ask, did you become a mentalist? Because that seems to be...
what I did. I always start my show with some really like visual quick things, like I do pen through bill and floating bill and like visual little it's a magic show. If you didn't know, now you know in the first like 5 minutes. and then it moves to like mostly mentalism.
Yeah.
So if you told me like a couple of years ago, like, would you be doing mentalism for like families and kids? I'd be like, no, they can't. I actually I've been to, I won't say who it was, but I went to this like really big mentalist like workshop, and I was like, oh, you could do that thing with kids, and they were like, no, never do mentalism for kids. Never.
Okay. Well, I'd love to dig into that a little bit if you're open to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to say their name, but like,
Sure. Yeah, I don't mean that particular, but I just mean how do you adapt mentalism for a family audience?
I mean, it's like the same as anything else. You just change the stories and premises to be things that are relatable to kids. So I don't know if you've seen my Fool Us piece where I it's like an out of this world with different men that I'm
The dating game kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and then there's a free choice at the end of the out of this world. So I just changed that story to be about pets. So I'm like, who here has pets? And I have all the kids bring their pets to the screen, which is my favorite crowd work ever because I get to meet new dogs. I love animals. And then I have like I just let a few kids drop their pets, and then I'm like, hey, you seem to have really good taste in pets. Will you help me pick out a pet? And that's the same exact thing, but it's like a premise that children relate to. And the kids get really into it. I'm like, should I have a unicorn? And they're like, ah,
So do you find a lot of it is just taking like, mentalists like to use all these kind of hoity-toity terms to describe what they're doing, like doing psychometry of the mind and influencing your perception. And so do you just say like, hey, instead of a prediction, I'm going to make a guess. It's a magical guess. Like,
I'm a mind reader, and I'm going to make a guess. And like,
yeah.
Crazy, because I already knew that was the thing. Like just stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm going to travel into the future to find out.
Yeah. I had a dream last night that I had smelly, dirty socks, and I do invisible deck, and then on the bottom it says clean your socks on all the copies. But so and then I get to have all this humor where I'm like, do my socks smell bad? And
yeah,
they're like, oh, and sometimes the kids are like, I can't smell them because this is a screen. Either way, it's hilarious.
Stupid adult.
Yeah, duh. Like, ew, it's just silly, and basically my invisible deck is a vehicle for smelly sock humor. But you could just take all these like, really simple mentalism things and just add things kids like unicorns, ice cream, candy, smelly socks.
And you just tied into your fifth tip of that article, which was go back to basics.
Oh yeah, exactly. I know, invisible deck. I'm still doing it. It's my soul dies a little bit inside every time I do it because it's like artistically satisfying, right? As a magician, I want to be like, look at all of these triple double lifts, but kids, it's I think one of the most powerful things you can do, and I still stand by that.
Yeah, I have I've talked about this on previous episodes of like I teach a lot of magic classes, or I used to teach a lot of magic classes, and so I'd be digging into all these beginner books and trying to find content for the classes. And many times I'd find this beginner's trick and start to play with it and be like, this could be good. This could be a real thing in my repertoire. And I bring it out, and I'm almost like shocked at how well it works, because to me it's almost like dismissively simple.
So
have you had that experience where it's something like this is too simple, and then you try it?
Yeah, I want to ask, what's your favorite virtual trick to do?
Well, to be honest, I don't do a lot of virtual performances, so I don't know that I have one favorite. That's, but what I have done is mostly for conferences and business groups, and I'm always adapting everything I do to like what they do. Mm. And making presentations around them. It's kind of like trade show style, where I adapt it to their industry. I do a lot of things that are more like puzzles. I found that for me, I like that. It's like kind of curious things more so than trying to amaze them. I'm just trying to be interesting.
No, that's good. If you can get them to play a game and interact, that's like super fun. I try to do things like that in my show too. Nice. Yeah. What was your question?
Question was there anything that was like super simple that you thought, this is too simple, it'll never work? but it did.
Oh, using the whole bottom of the screen as lapping. I really like, if that makes sense, like that. I have a point where I have like a chocolate, and the first time I like do I just actually put it in my hand and I eat it, and I go, look over there, and the kids are like, oh my god, there's chocolate in here, you ate it, you didn't make it disappear, right? And then second time I do it, I do like a French drop, and I just hold it here, and I literally just, like, you can't even see my hand move, but I've dropped the chocolate, right?
Yeah.
And all the pressure's here, and then I just hold this like here, right? And I'm like, oh, it's gone. And if you hold this super guilty, like, the kids are like, it's there, but it's like too late. It's way out. It's down there. It's gone, right? But you're like, no, it's not. And they're like, yeah, it is. And you're like, no, it's not. And fine. And you're like, anyway, so just like using the whole bottom of the screen to ditch.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
using the frame, yeah.
and so easy, and one of my favorite virtual things.
I know some people, early on there was all those discussions about whether that was cheating at Magic, like to use your frame like that.
I actually adapted that to in person now, and what I did is I took 2 magnets and like a pocket kind of thing. Actually, it was this pocket that I would not paper clip, oh my goodness, like that I would sew into things. Anyway, I put it on the edge of my table, and I still do the exact same thing. I just actually lap it into this little pocket, right?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. So, and one of the things I'll be talking about, if I do more articles about virtual magic, is ways to adapt your virtual magic to in person, so that you have like a great routine, but you're like, oh, I can't do this thing, and ways to think about how to adapt it.
Now, on that note, I'm just doing these segues, smooth as butter segues here. On that note, speaking of other things you want to talk about, I just learned this today, as we were chatting today. You want to share the news?
Oh, I'm going to be doing a monthly article in the Linking Ring on virtual magic, so it's exciting.
Yeah, perhaps starting September. You never quite know.
Yes.
But
I submitted the first article, and it's been looked over, and we're gonna go from there. I think it's gonna be in September, and yeah, I think there's a lot of things to explore. Like, some of the things I want to cover is just like who's killing it virtually, and kind of do a spotlight on them, or maybe like talk to them, interview them. Tips on how to sell virtual in a world that's reopening. Because I know that I'm not one of the only virtual people that's had maybe more of a loss of shows in the last few months as things open. But there's techniques that you could do to still book more and more shows, and I am still booking more and more shows. You just have to like go out and like get them. They're not just like falling in your lap like they used to as much when the world was closed, but they're still out there. And just talking about adapting virtual to in person, and then I know there's still some people that haven't fully done the virtual thing and have questions, like what's the minimum that I should buy to do a virtual show, and that it would be like acceptable. Mm-hmm. And so just kind of advice like that to people who maybe never didn't like get into it in the beginning. So I hope it'll be something a little bit for everyone.
All right, I have a question. There's no segue for this. I'm just going to ask you a question. 2 questions. One, is there a trick that you tried to put in your virtual show and it just didn't work at all?
Well, I have a trick that was working, but then over time it wasn't sustainable.
Okay, interesting. Go on.
So when it started, I would make my cat appear, which was just, I don't know. Do you have people that aren't magicians that watch this? It's all magicians, right?
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe.
I don't want to
if they've stuck it out this far, congratulations.
Yeah. So I'm going to ruin magic, maybe. So my magical, fantastic cat appearance, right, was my roommate and I. We would do it in both of our shows. They were a magician. And we would, like, I'd put up a silk, and I'd be like, 1, 2, 3. And then the roommate's, like, running around, grabbing the cat. And, like, then, like, on their hands and knees, like, putting the cat out that last, and then we would have like cat treats, because if we didn't have cat treats there, the cat would just like go away.
Yeah, if there's one animal that's infamously easy to work with, it's cats.
Yeah, so that was great for like the first 2 months, and then she started to like she knew when the
Uh-oh, it's this part of the show. I'm out of here.
well when we started putting the backdrop up or like setting stuff up, she's like, and she'd like go hide, and so it
Yeah.
was sustainable, unfortunately, because yeah, cats are not. Easy. But so I mean, I would say that, and I don't know, just anything physically interactive. Like you can't do chair suspension,
Yeah.
really, right? Because
And I know you're almost a full vaudeville show yourself. You do all sorts of things, juggling and do you include the variety in your shows as well?
I juggled a little bit, like for fun. I've done some knife juggling, but I I leave it out of my kids' show. I do it sometimes.
Knife juggling in particular, yeah.
Yeah, a knife juggle for corporate. And I worked in like doing a knife juggling card stab thing. So that's kind of it's how I like. I'm like, look at this thing I learned during quarantine, and that's why I have knives. I find that magicians just are like, look, I randomly have this knife for no reason, right? Now I'm going to put a card in it. So that's kind of how I'm like, here's this prop. This is why I have it, because it's a hobby a weird hobby. I'm like, hey, who's developed a weird hobby like making bread during this time? And I like to have like moments in my show where I ask people just about their lives, because I feel like a huge part of doing virtual is having people feel seen and connect with each other. And so I go over and I ask a few different people, and I'm like, okay, well, one of my things is knife juggling. And so then that's how I introduce the knives.
I have a question here from Charles in the audience. He's asking if these virtual shows have allowed you to reach out to international audiences and do shows around the world.
Oh my gosh, Charles, I love your profile picture. By the way, I love that vintage poster. That's awesome. And I think they have. I've done a couple shows actually in England and also Australia, and some in like different parts of Europe. They have to be English speaking, right? But definitely, I've done a lot of Canadian shows. So what I did and I mean, I just capitalized on a bad thing, but when I realized that America was all getting vaccinated and Canada wasn't as much, I like went and I bought like Magician in Canada, Virtual Canada, MagicShow.com, Magician in Montreal, or I think if you look up like Magician in Toronto, like that goes to my website. Like I bought all the SEO domains that I could for Canadian magic things, because I was like, oh, I gotta capitalize on them being slower with the vaccine. They're going to be wanting virtual shows a lot longer. So lots of Canadian shows. Yeah.
Well, that's okay. I think like as I said, this what Charles was saying. This eliminates all the borders and all the barriers to doing this. And I think did you find you had a bit of kind of a foot in the door because of you've been on Penn and Teller Fool Us and Masters of Illusion. Do you find that helped you reach out to these audiences that are further afield?
So Masters, I just filmed a few.
It hasn't gone out yet. Okay.
Yeah. But and then it's interesting because Fool Us came out during COVID. It came out in October. But I was doing I did that article before that. I did the article the virtual tips, I think, before then. So I think it definitely probably helped around Christmas time, doing really good for holiday shows. But the first half of the pandemic, I didn't have those TV credits, and I still somehow survived. So I definitely think they helped. Being on TV always helps, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, but I would assume.
Oh.
No big deal. I've been on local news, so kind of I get it.
That's more hard or intimidating for me. Like I don't know how did you do that? Did you just email them and you were like, you should have a magician on your show? Like, how did you create that opportunity for yourself, Ryan?
Well, that was actually I found out this is when I was doing a magic festival. I did a magic festival for 6 or 7 years, and that having a magic festival and promoting a magic festival made it seem so much bigger than any magic show I've ever done before. It was the same magic show, really, but calling it a festival was the hook that had, the breakfast show was very interested to have me on to promote the magic festival and all that stuff. So
Yeah, I feel like for talk shows and news and things, you have to have something you're promoting. So I've done.
it has to be relevant. Yeah, it has to be. Yeah.
Like I've done a lot of talk shows and news in Mexico because I did the tour with Champions of Magic in October, and so now I have a lot of Mexican TV credits, but I don't have any American ones. I don't have like a thing to promote, so I guess I should have a thing to promote, right? That seems to be the way.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how famous you get, you only get on shows when you have a thing to promote, like a movie. I guess it's the universal law.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking at that, and it was like Shin Lim is on Jimmy Fallon because he did America's Got Talent, and Just a Woman had Magic for Humans, and because I one of my goals is to do a talk show in the next year or two, and it's like, oh, they're all selling a bigger thing, so I gotta make a bigger thing to then
Yeah.
talk show.
I mean, it's the same rules apply here. You only get on this show if you have something in the linking ring to promote.
Oh, good then.
Yeah. All right, Katrina, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I really appreciate it. I look forward to reading the column starting in September. Is there a name for it? Do you know the name?
I want it to be Virtual Vision, and have like a little retro TV. Like I want that to be kind of because I like WandaVision.
I was going to say, yeah.
And alliteration. Like I was like, should it be Virtual Viewpoint or Virtual Velociraptor or like.
It's a lot of options, you know.
So I think it's gonna be Virtual Vision, and hopefully be like cute retro headline theme. I don't know.
Nice.
I don't know if you're allowed to design your headline or the way it looks, but that would be my hope.
We will find out. We'll find out together in September. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And where is the ambulance heading next?
I'm going to Atlanta for a show.
Right.
Friday night, Atlanta Magic with Joe Turner, and I might have a poster here. Atlanta Magic Night. Oh, that's.
Aha!
Yeah, another pro tip, don't do digital force bag virtual. It's really hard. No, I'm just kidding. Sometimes it works. Anyway, yeah, that's hard to see. Go to Atlanta Magic Night, Friday.
All right, well, good luck with the show. Good luck with all the virtual shows around the world. And maybe we'll see you again on this show with the next year update. What's new in the virtual world?
Exciting. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Right, have a good night. And you can check out the article we were referring to, 5 Tips for Virtual Magic. That was in July 2020. I think those tips are still very relevant here a year later. They're pretty foundational to any virtual show. Coming up next, we have more magic, and I think this is a first for Inside the Ring. This is, by popular demand, a repeat guest here on the show. I think he's the only person who's been on the show now for a second time. And the popular demand was, I admit, it was mostly me, because I had such a fun time having him on the show. He's a columnist in the Linking Ring and does the column called Auto Magic, which is focusing on self-working magic. Please welcome back Michael Breggar. Mike, good to see you again.
Hey, how are you, Ryan? And it's 3 times. It's actually 3 times.
Is it 3? Oh my goodness. So I already did that thing about being the only 2-time.
Yeah, I'm more than a 2-timer. I am a 3-timer. But
Wow.
to know me is to forget me.
I have such a bad memory for.
Hey, I know Harry Lorraine. I think.
Well, then this time you will be charming. If the saying.
That's right. The 3rd time's the charm. I get it. Right.
It was a little obtuse, but we got there.
That was a terrific interview with Katrina. I'm looking forward to the virtual column. God knows we could all use some tips on that.
Yeah, I think and as Katrina said, she's kind of in the middle tech. It's easy to see these people who are like super gadgety and be like, oh man, I could never do that. There's no way. But she's in that kind of reasonable realm of attainability, I think. So I think her tips are going to be really practical.
Yeah, the one thing that I learned is it is not the same as any other type of work. Because I've done a few of these. I've done lots of lectures virtually. I was lucky enough to perform at the Magic Castle, do a Magic Castle set virtually, and I was nervous as anything. But what I was nervous about was not so much the set that I was doing. I had 3 cameras set up, right? I had a camera on my left. So I was standing up in the beginning. I had some cards, right, and I was casually shuffling them in the beginning to the camera over here on my left. And then the thing was I needed to sit down because I had a straight on camera like the view you're seeing now of my laptop. And then I had an overhead camera. So I was going to start with the casual discussion in the beginning as I'm shuffling, and then sit down and continue the trick. But the thing is, during the casual shuffle in the beginning, I needed to displace a card. After the shuffle, I had to displace a card from the top onto the bottom as I placed the cards down on the table. And then as I placed the card on the table, I would sit down with the mouse, push the button, and come with it. Well, I forgot to displace the card. And if you read the Automagic column, you know that a lot of these things that I do, they're well-disguised mathematical principles or a few other things.
Yeah. One wrinkle in the formula.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that'll really, really mess you up. So I got about halfway through when all of a sudden a light bulb went on. I was able to recover, but man, I'll tell you, I was ready to. I just wanted to I just wanted to figure out a way that I could walk out of the room. So I was ready to go to my next favorite virtual trick. You were talking about what's your favorite virtual trick. Mine is end meeting.
The vanish, yeah.
Yeah, end meeting. The little red button on the Zoom console.
I just need to take a quick moment here to check in. There's a couple people that are joining us halfway through here. Joel, another joining us from Australia. Welcome back, Joel. I know you've been here a number of times. Appreciate you coming back. And I see David. David is saying, Mike, you're representing ring number 6 here tonight.
Yeah.
The champion has been chosen and sent off to the show.
Yeah, well, the people at Ring 6. David, I'm surprised you're still awake. Only kidding.
Jim is coming in from Ashtabula, Ohio. Ashtabula.
Huh.
And hello, David.
David,
straight to the point. Hello, David.
Ryan, who's from dialing in from Australia?
We have Joel is here from Australia, Joel Spence,
cool.
And there was someone right at the beginning. Joseph.
Hey, folks.
Joseph.
Wow, Australia, that's great. What is it like? Is it like 3:00 2 weeks from now? Is that?
I think that's how it works out. I could lose track.
I'll tell you. You guys are great if you're doing like an international one ahead because you're like so far ahead of us. It's a new effect.
Oh, and Donna's here from New Jersey. I don't know if Drew's peering over your shoulder as well, but
hey, Donna. Donna, North Jersey or South Jersey? North or South, Donna?
Because it matters. It's serious. Whether
she's probably right, like in Princeton, like right in the middle, and they don't know whether they're coming or going. So. And
David is coming in from Oklahoma. I know a song about Oklahoma. Yep. I'm not going to get into it.
Central. Donna says it's Central. Okay. All right. Very good.
So Mike, you happen to be an expert in a field that has really blossomed in the virtual world, which is self-working magic. I see that a lot in virtual shows because you can have people directing you through the camera to influence the magic. Have you been doing that sort of thing?
Yeah, I have. There's a lot of process involved, but if you read the stuff in my column, you understand. Process is not bad if you disguise it. If you make it entertaining, right? It's the journey that matters. Animan always said it's the effect. Concentrate on the effect. Technique, don't worry about the technique. You can have the most simple technique. If you've got a good effect, concentrate on that. And he didn't use all those words when he said that. Animan probably went like this and looked like he was constipated. But the effect is the thing. There's a lot of process involved, but if you take your time and think about the process, think about, flip two cards, do this or do that, or look at this or look at that. Why are you doing that? Figure out how to make some sense around it. That makes it entertaining, and that makes people forget about the process. So you get them from point A to point D pretty quickly without thinking about B or C. And then they're at point D and they're saying, how did I get there? It must have been magic. It must have been, or it's been one of Ryan's famous puzzles that he likes to talk about. It's curiosity. It's interesting. It's different. So yeah, you can do that. Traditional parlor style magic, I think is pretty good to do virtually. I think some close up, not all close up. Difficulty is, when you do a card trick and you got to pick a card. Well, you're not here. Shuffle the deck. Well, you're not here. Here's another.
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of us have been forced to become mentalists.
Yeah.
Because those two things you just said, it may seem inconsequential, but those two things are the foundation of making magic magical.
Yeah.
Because if they can't shuffle the cards, well, it doesn't matter. You could have them all in order. If they don't get to pick a card, well, you're telling them what their card. Like, those two things are the audience randomizing the process in a way that makes what you do impossible. Yep. And without that, it's not impossible.
Yeah. So I started been thinking a lot about this, Brian, and I'm also thinking a lot about at some point we're going to be getting back. I don't know if things are ever going to get back to the way that it used to be. Hopefully they will, hopefully in the not too distant future. But at some point we're going to be performing live again. We may not be doing sponge balls anymore, right? Because there's just so much handling involved. The pick a card activity, Mike Close has like one of those little hands with a pointer on it that he uses as a gag, but he also uses, use this and touch a card. Use that to touch the card. I mean, there are ways to sort of work around it, and we're going to have to think about how we're clever at working around it and how to keep it entertaining along the way. I think there are ways to show that you're working with a shuffled deck without saying, here, shuffle the deck of cards. And I think it was, we talked about Harry Lorraine, joked about Harry Lorraine earlier, but I think it was Harry who once said, there's nothing wrong. People see a deck of cards on a table in a box, and you take them out of the box, and what you're used to at home is you're not used to taking them out of the box and then shuffling it before you do something. You're used to taking them out of the box thinking that they're shuffled to begin with. So one thing that I do is I will take the cards out of the box and I'll spread them face up, and I'll purposely keep the advertising cards and the jokers in the deck. I'll spread it face up, even with a setup deck, and I'll pull out the jokers and I'll pull out the advertising cards and I'll throw them over my shoulder or throw them away, close the deck and get started. And that way you've subtly told the audience, I'm working with you saw the deck. It was a mixed up deck. Even if it's in red, black order, you sort of spread it roughly. So
chunk it.
Order. Yeah. You can even do that. I don't know if you would do that with new deck order, but if you have, half deck stack, or a size 7 stack, or you have a bunch of cards up front that you need. If you have a royal flush for the first 5 cards, and you sort of spread it roughly, you go in there, you concentrate on the back section of the deck where you have the jokers. You don't need to have the shuffling. It is inconsequential. It takes up time. You flip the cards over, you go right into the routine, and you get started. So maybe we need to think about how we sort of disguise things using methods like that. Another thing that I've been doing, not as easy to do it on virtual because of camera angles, is I'll try and get some dirty work done quickly with a deck of cards or a prop or whatever, and then I'll move away from the action. I'll move away from the prop. I will physically get up from the table and walk a couple of feet away, because that way, and then let the spectator finish things up, and that way, the magic is true. There had to have been magic to happen. How could this have happened? You weren't even near those cards. Not necessarily true, but I'm not going to remind you. I played with the cards in the beginning before I walked away. How did this happen? You weren't anywhere near those cups and balls. Well, that's what you want them to believe. It's kind of physical distancing misdirection, which Darwin Ortiz talked about many years ago, and I thought it was brilliant. I just thought it was brilliant. And I think we can do more of that on virtual stuff. I would also say to the viewers, next time you do a card trick, whether it's online or live, if you have an opportunity after you do stuff, put the cards down on the table. Get them out of your hands. Anytime you don't need to have them in your hands, put them down on the table, even if it's just for a second. I think that's extremely important to do because that disconnects you from the cards and gives people a chance to think, how could you be doing this? You're not touching the cards. If you do it enough, they don't think you ever touch the cards, which is the coolest thing of all.
Now, Mike, you said you might share a trick with us here tonight, and
Yeah.
I particularly did not read your latest column because I knew you were going to do this, and I didn't want to know what's about to happen. So.
Cool. Well, that's your excuse for this month, Brian, right?
I particularly didn't read any of your past columns, just in case I invite you back.
There you go. What's the name of this magazine that we're all in? So this is something I've been doing a version of this for a long time, and I don't claim that it's any brain buster. I doubt that I would go on Penn and Teller, fool us, and fool them. It seems the audiences seem to love this thing, and I have so much fun playing around with it. So without further ado, let me switch my webcam without necessarily misplacing a card, right? And here we go, and I'm going to introduce you to my friend, Norman.
Oh, sound effects.
Yeah, there you go. It's Norman's sound effects box over here. Norman is Alexa's brother, and I don't know. Can we see Norman over here? There's Norman, right?
Yeah.
You're Alexa's brother, right? Yeah. That's what he says. So Norman is going to do a card trick for us tonight. So it's a good thing that I happen to have cards for Norman to do a card trick with. So Ryan, I am going to. We need a card to start with. Wait, I don't want Norman to see the card. So we're gonna. That's how you blindfold a toy robot. What? What's that? You can still hear us. Okay. All right. There we go. Now Norman can neither hear us nor see us. Oh, if only I can do the same thing with the camera over here. So Ryan, I'm going to just squish that up to do this on camera. Just tell me when to stop, and I'll just stop at that point sometime tonight, and not in Sydney.
Stop.
Okay, there we go. So you stop me right here. So can you see the card? Okay, don't say it out loud because
I got it.
Okay, everybody online. Hope I'm looking at the monitor over here. Yeah, it looks like we're okay over here. So if you were here with me, I would at this point. This is the point where I'd walk away from the table. By the way, I would say take the cards and just remember the cards. Give them a really good shuffle. Give them a really, really good shuffle. Think about that card, but don't say it out loud. And Ryan, if you can, take the cards, spread them across the table, Norman's still blindfolded over here, and he still has his earmuffs on. So your card is somewhere in this ribbon spread of cards, right? Now we can bring Norman back from his soundproof booth, and oh my goodness, Norman was sleeping over here. So there you go. So there's Norman, and Norman is going to look at the cards, and Norman is going to find your card. So I'm going to give you Norman, and you're going to wind him up, and he is going to walk on the cards, and when he stops, your card will be under his feet. So it's wherever he stops. Let's just nudge him a little bit to keep him on track. And he's stopping over there, and let's take a look, and let's see, it's over here, and it looks like he's standing on this one over here. Ryan, what was your card?
It was the 4 of spades.
All right, did Norman get it right? Here we go. Wait a minute. Let's get that drum roll.
Hey!
Well, you know what? This is the most amazing thing, because there's a gag that's involved. Whether that's the case or whether that's not the case, if he lands on any other card, which is what happens 51% of the time, right? It's really rare that he lands on the card.
It's a miracle tonight.
It is. You would say, this is the best virtual trick I've seen. I would say, well, he said it was under his feet, right? And you look under his feet, and there it is.
Yeah.
Under his feet.
That's what I was expecting,
Right.
because I know the idea, so I was actually quite surprised.
Right. So this is the old lucky coin gag, but man, was that a lucky. Norman, you're the best, Norman.
Yeah. Do you sell those? That's.
Hey, I gotta figure out how to make it happen better. So let me I'll explain it to you for those of you out there who don't like to read. So first of all, you need to get a little toy robot. These cost $5. I got these at Bed Bath and Beyond in the holiday period. It was in the Beyond department. At Bed Bath and Beyond. That's a joke. I don't hear anybody laughing.
Just press the button number 4. Press.
There you go. And then you cut off an index of a card, or print an index out that would fit under the pad of the feet and glue it in there. And then, of course, you're forcing the card. So let's talk. So you can use any force. And I think I said in the magazine, just use any force. Use a cross-cut force, whatever force you want to do. What I used is a relatively, well, it is a new force. I always liked the idea of the Hofsensor Coal Force, but I was never really good at it because it requires, there's a knack to doing it. There's certain timing where you spread the cards and you have to do it at the right tempo, and it always looked a little clunky when I do it. So I tried to develop an auto-magic-y version, an easy version of the force. This is not in the magazine, by the way. You're learning this. Those of you who are watching tonight are learning something special.
Bonus content.
So I call this the hip hop force for Hofsensor. And what you do is you have your force card on the bottom of the deck, right? Force cards on the bottom of the deck, and you hold the cards. You hold the cards like you're doing, like you're coming in biddle grip. You're holding it from above, from doing end grip, right, with the fingers on the short sides of the cards from the top, your index fingers on top. Because what you're going to do is you're just going to let the card, you're going to use your index finger and let the cards drop. And your other hand, your left hand, is underneath to catch the cards as they drop. But what is the left hand really, really, really doing? So the left hand is there, the fingers of the left hand are there on your force card. So as the card drops, you're grabbing this card with your fingers, and then as soon as Ryan says stop, you stop. Let me get the camera. You stop, right, and you slip this card out as you pull these away. So it's sort of like a slip. You're doing a slip cut. and then that card is there on the bottom. And as soon as you show the card around, you take this packet with the force and you put it down right on the other cards. So it looks like it came from where it's supposed to come. It came from the middle because that's where it was. So is that clear?
Yeah.
Yep. So again, so let's say, so the force card's on the bottom, so it's a 3 of spades this time. And now we use our index finger and we let them drop. And then my other fingers are over here, and they're actually wiggling this card down a little bit to get an advanced pull down on it. So we're letting this drop, blah, 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 letting them drop. And then then Ryan calls from Canada, and Ryan says, stop. And you say, oh, stop right here. I can go one more. That's fine. So you can go one more. And then you pull out your right-hand cards at the same time you're holding on to this one. And bingo, that's there. That's right there. It's right there for you with no work at all. It's right there. And you've basically done a Hofstadter-Cole style force. Put the rest of the deck down on the table. This goes right down on top, and you're good to go. And then you can do whatever you want with the force. So there you go. So Norman Alexa's brother does a card trick, is in this month's linking ring. I can't guarantee that you're going to have the success that we had tonight. I can.
Yeah, you didn't explain that part. There's no like magnets or anything.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that about magnets. There was, in doing some research, I found in Bascom Jones Magic magazine going back to the 1970s, 1980s. So he had a trick published with one of these little toy robots. This was cool. So he put a little magnet. You put a little magnet instead of doing the card. You put a magnet in one of the the pads, and then you have a shim card, right? The shim card's a metal card in the deck. It looks like a regular playing card, but it's made of metal. So now when you do the spread on the table, so you have the shim card. Where is it? Shim card's on top. So you have somebody pick a card. They pick a card, and you place it. They look at the card, and you place it on top, right? They place it on top of the shim card, and then you have them cut the deck. Okay, so now you have halfway down, you've got their card sitting on top of the shim card, the metal shim card, right? So then you spread it out, and you have the robot start to go down the line. And what happens is the robot crosses their selected card, and as soon as it hits the shim card, the magnet on the foot locks, and it turns the robot around, and it actually moves back like a half an inch to go onto their card. So it actually will stop on their card.
It's like, oh, that was it. Gotta go back.
Yeah, it's really awesome. So, and then Eugene Breggar did a version of it. If you've seen Eugene's lecture on one of his penguin lectures. So Eugene noticed with these little wind-up dolls that the main springs in here pretty much, unless they break, they pretty much stay consistent. So if you wind it, say 4 times, it'll go a certain distance for 4 times. So you say, I'm going to wind it, and you put the card so it's, I don't know, like 7 cards from the top. You control the card 7 from the top. And that's the distance of winding it 4 times because it's very consistent. So with this little gimmicky version with the thing on the bottom of the foot, doing it this way, you wind it and then you hold the feet down and you hand it to the spectator. And so you put the card down anywhere you want to put it down and let it walk across. Little did we know it was going to land on the right one tonight, but I'll take it.
Yeah.
Right? I should have just shut up at that point and said, "Wow." And
that's how it happens every time. Good night.
There you go. And then everyone would have looked at the magazine tomorrow and said, "What?" So, any case, that's that.
And one thing I noted about that force you were sharing is that it's a nice one for performing for the camera because it brings it up.
Yeah.
Right. You're you can see it clearly. Instead, like obviously you can't do this for a camera because they can see exactly what they shouldn't see. But that's a nice camera-facing way to have a card chosen.
Yeah, you trying it? You trying it? It's really great. You put the card on the bottom. You just make sure that you're touching the bottom card with your middle fingers, and then you lift up the stock. When they say stop, you lift up the stock, and it automatically flips that card off.
It's so humid here today. I don't think I could not do it if I wanted to.
There you go. Right. It looks, and then you put it right back on top again, and it just it looks great. It looks great. The hip hop force.
And was that also published along with the Norman trick, or is that somewhere else?
No.
You said it wasn't in the Lincoln Ring. That's right.
No, I could basically find
this. Right, this is insider information.
Yeah, there you go. One of these days we'll put it in there.
All right.
But I don't like just writing up forces, right? You gotta.
There's a reason for them to exist.
Force isn't a trick, right? You gotta make sure that it makes sense to go and do it.
Yeah, there's that old saying in Magic. I only know one way to force a card, but I know 68 ways to reveal it. So I know 68 tricks.
That's very true. That's very true. Very true.
Well, Mike, thank you very much for joining us for the third time by popular demand.
Yeah. Well, maybe the fourth time will be maybe the trick. I was going to say that maybe the trick will work, but man, did it work! So maybe
we better be careful because the popular demand might shift to the other side of things.
Yeah, well, they give me end meeting. We'll get back to that one. Well, it's been a pleasure, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be had. And hey, everybody, take care. Be safe. Be well.
And
See
good
you
night.
all soon. See you in the magazine.
That's right. And again, if you want to get the real deal on the robot walking across the cards, it's Alexa's brother Norman does a trick in the August 2021 edition, page 119. We have almost come to the end of the show, but I have 3 things I'm going to try and cram in quickly. It's always the case. I have so much fun chatting. I've got more to share, so we're going to get right to it. And this is our what's the there's no fancy word for monthly. It's the monthly visit to the Card Corner with Mike Powers. He has been a regular on this show because he is always sharing videos along with his column, which is really nice because he teaches the opposite of self-working magic, self-work magic. You have to do the work itself. So let's get right to it. It's Mike Powers with the latest from Card Corner.
This is Double Stop Revisited, the August 2021 Card Corner. I was able to gather a small audience using my wife Maria's students from the Elkhart and South Bend area. We have Melinda, Nancy, and Jasmine today. So here we go. Here's the demo. Now, while you guys are seeing this picture, I'm going to go to the back view so you can see that the cards are all different, right? They're not the same card. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle the deck up because I think that is a fair way to start. Does that look like a fair shuffle? No hanky-panky here. Those cards are really shuffled. All right. So now, Jasmine, this is the old pick a card trick. I think that you know that if I go like this is universal sign language for pick a card, right? So that's what you're going to do. Now, since you're far away, are you in Elkhart?
I'm in South Bend.
In South Bend. Okay, so you're about 30, 40 miles away. I'm thinking that your thoughts ought to be able to transmit 30 or 40 miles, but I'll just spread these cards. And when I get near the middle, just tell me to stop. And
Okay.
I want you to feel like you really have a free choice. So you can change your mind. I'll just spread till you say stop.
Stop.
Right here. Now my
Mhm.
thumb is on this card. I'm going to spread a few more. Do you want to go to this card that it's on, or the next one, or two more, or backwards? Which one do you
No,
want?
the one your thumb is on.
The one right here. Okay, so I mean, I gave you a choice. Now I'm going to look away so I can't see anything. Can you see the card okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know what your card is.
Yeah.
All right, so don't forget it. We'll be coming back here in a second. And Maria, I'm going to have you select a card as well. So if you just put your finger, you're close by, just put your finger down.
There.
This one here?
Yeah.
All right, you can take your finger off. I'm going to show you the card. Can you see it?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you
show it
each,
to them?
okay, I can show it to you guys too. Can you see it? I hope everybody see. I'll hold it out there. Hope you guys can see okay. Anyway, there's two cards selected. Even if you didn't see it, Maria knows what it is. All right, now let's do this. There's so many cards. I want Maria to cut about half the cards up in the air here, and we'll just get rid of those cards over on the side, because we're going to make two piles of cards, one for Maria and one for Jasmine. And Jasmine, in a minute, I'm going to start dealing cards face up. I'll take these. Maria, these are for you. Just hold on to those. I'm going to deal cards like this. Now I'm going to come in close so you can see very clearly. This isn't your card, is it? Okay, so you know your card. At some point, you might see your card here.
Mhm.
I want you to think the word stop. I don't want you to go, hey, stop, I just saw my card. I want you to just send a thought and just go, I'm not even going to look at your face. I'll look out over here, because sometimes people go, oh, there it is, and then they think that I'm just looking at their face. So I'm not even going to look at the cards at all. I'll look over to the side over here. But at some point, if you see your card, just think the word stop. And Maria's going to deal face down right next to me in tandem. So if you each have one card, I'm going to start dealing. Here we go. Jasmine, did you just think stop?
Yes.
The five of diamonds?
Yep.
That's your card?
Yep.
All the way from South Bend, that thought, it took a small delay because I had to, wow, you thought stop right when I was dealing this card. That's pretty cool. Let's come back to the front view here. That's good. Your thoughts are very clear. The fact that that card that you thought of earlier, the seven of diamonds, was an interesting one too. Well, let's ask Maria a question. You don't tell me the name of your card, but I'm going to ask you yes or no. Is your card this card, the nine of spades?
No.
Okay, that's not your card.
No.
Okay, well then let's do this. Jasmine thought stop on this card here. We'll shuffle these guys up a little bit and come back to the front view. So Jasmine thought stop on the five of diamonds. Just leave that here so we can keep an eye on it. And I want you to just say stop at any point in time. I'm going to just take cards like this. You can wait a while, go soon. Just think, or just say stop anytime you want.
Stop.
Stop.
Now, is it this card here or the next one?
The next one.
You want this card.
Mhm.
Okay, so now Jasmine thought stop on the five of diamonds.
Mhm.
You said stop right here. Wouldn't that be amazing if that was your card and you just happened to say stop at the right moment? What was your card?
Four of clubs.
The four of clubs. Hey, cool magic. Well, thanks for helping out. That's the trick that's going to be in my column. And then I promised you to do one more thing, because you chose the seven of diamonds. I was going to leave it out of the deck here.
And that was double stop, revisited, which I think makes 4 stops, maybe even 8 stops if you revisit a double twice. I'm not good with this stopping math, but thanks very much, Mike, for sharing those videos with us. Now, to get to my segment, my favorite part of this whole show comes down to this, and I have a fancy intro for it. This is the reason I started this whole show in the first place, because I have so much fun digging into the archives of the Linking Ring. And this show gives me a reason to dust off some of these things I find and try them out and share them with you. So this is the first time I've ever performed this. Keep in mind, this is a demonstration more than a performance. But it's a trick an old trick from the Linking Ring. And actually, it was a dream that I was having, and we've been locked at home. We haven't been able to travel anywhere, and I had a dream about traveling, and I'll tell you my dream, pretty much exactly as it unfolded for me. So there I was, making some Z's. Okay. I was making some Z's, and I was imagining traveling to Bavaria. I've never been to Bavaria. I've never thought of going to Bavaria, to be honest. But there I was, dreaming of it. And I imagined, traveling there and going to a festival of some sort and eating cake. I was eating chocolate cake in my dream, which probably most dreams I end up eating cake, and cheese, and there was beverages flowing in this dream. But most of all, this was a cultural festival, and part of that cultural festival was a dance, and there was before me this group of people all dressed in traditional Bavarian folk costuming, and they were dancing, and they were all dancing together in old Bavarian folk dance style, and there was a big group of them, and they were all holding hands, and they were dressed in this Bavarian costume and holding hands and dancing, and they were like, "Ryan, come dance with us, come dance with us." And they invited me, they pulled me out of my chair, and I spilled my beer and spilled my cake, and they grabbed a hold of me, and there I was, suddenly dancing in Bavaria, in this Bavarian cultural festival in front of thousands upon thousands of Bavarians and various other people. And maybe, just maybe, I've been able to illustrate what my dream ended up looking like. All these people in full costume, holding hands, dancing in a line. And, whoop, uh-oh. And there it was. I ripped one piece. There it is, all the Bavarians dancing, and there's me, because I forgot one part of this dream. I forgot my costume at home, and there I was dancing in nothing but my underwear, just like most dreams go. You end up wearing nothing but underwear. So that's my Bavarian folk dancing dream. That is that. I found that today. I thought it was an interesting little idea of perhaps a little surprise at the end of what people know as being able to cut out paper dolls. I mean, take a trip to my recycling bin, clean up the mess. That is going back to, where is it here? 1984, February 1984, page 56. Monty Harris, a magician from Montreal, contributed a Hocus Pocus parade, and that was one of the items in there. Being able to have the odd one out in, whoops, that's my previous one. It was my test run. The odd man out in the paper dolls. I thought that was a fun idea. And last month, I think, I was discussing about the editors of the Linking Ring often have put in little notes after things, and there is almost a full column of notes from Phil Wilmarth, editor at the time, talking about this trick and all different sort of ideas that he has for it. And he shared the idea of cutting out crystal balls. So you have all these crystal balls on stands, but one of the crystal balls has a symbol inside of it that would be the symbol that they were thinking of. So it read their mind. Or, you cut out all hearts, but there's one diamond. Things like that. So there's a lot of ideas tossed around. But I thought that was a fun little idea with paper dolls. Something that everyone thinks they know, but it ends up being a little fun surprise. Charles says, "Let's dance." Yes. I appreciate you guys tuning in to the end. We just cram one more little thing in here. And this is actually breaking my own rules, because this show was about things that were published in the Linking Ring. And this next thing was not published in the Linking Ring. In fact, it hasn't been published anywhere. This is a world premiere demonstration of this idea. And I say that with full confidence because I only came up with it a few hours ago. I was working. My whole head has been in paper magic this really past year or more. And I find it really fun to play with and really easy to work with and adapt. So this is an adaptation of an idea. And I think I can switch to my table here to show this to you. This actually isn't a trick per se. It's a puzzle. I was talking earlier about how I like doing little curious things. And this is definitely one of those things that is more curious than anything. That would be, most puzzles, when you get them, there's a picture on the front that shows you what the puzzle is. I find that to be a spoiler. So this is all you need to know about this puzzle, is that this puzzle can be solved. That's all you need to know. So let's have a look. This puzzle can be solved. These are the pieces of the puzzle. Now this, I think, as I said, this is brand new, so I haven't had a chance to really try this on anyone. But I think this is a pretty difficult puzzle. And I bet if you were to try to put this puzzle together, you would struggle. So these are all the pieces of the puzzle. And, if you were to put this together, you don't know what you're trying to put together, really. And the fact of the matter is, all the pieces are kind of oddly cut. And they actually don't really go. I think you'll find that they don't, there's not much to do with these pieces. It's kind of a bunch of nonsense. But everything you need to know is right here in the instructions. And that's it. Now, if you happen to tune into the show last month, I need to make sure I solve this so that you guys in the audience can make sense of it. If you happen to watch last month, you might have an advantage. I have to do this mirrored, which makes it a lot trickier. There it is. This puzzle can be solved. How about that? How about that? I thought that was a pretty neat idea, a fun way of looking at it. And if you don't get it, if you don't see it, I don't know, it should be pretty clear. But if not, you can look at the thing I cut out, and maybe that makes it a little more clear exactly what I'm talking about. So, if you were paying attention last month, you would have seen that coming, perhaps, because last month, this is where it ties back to the Linking Ring. Last month, I shared this, which is The Illusion of Negative Space, which was published in 1983 in the Linking Ring magazine. And it was just this. It was just a picture that kind of looks confusing at first until you switch your brain around to look at it from a different perspective and look at the negative space instead of the positive shapes. Creates the illusion of the word without actually the word being there. And thank you very much, Peter. Very cool. So I think that's a fun little puzzle that I look forward to trying out and sharing with people in the future. And you folks here tonight on Inside the Ring are the very first to see it. That brings us to another successful conclusion. And that was episode 11 of Inside the Ring, which means next time we're back, next month, will be the 1 year anniversary episode, the first completed year. I guess that's not an anniversary yet. It's the first complete year. It'll be the season finale. You'll say that. It'll be the season finale, and I have a guest I'm very excited to have on the show. And I hope you'll join us there next third Tuesdays, of every month. Here at the IBM Facebook page, on YouTube, and at InsideTheRing.show. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I will see you next month.